putting wilted fruit snacks in the freezer. They're better that way.
Frozen?
They're not like completely frozen, but they like cold.
Okay. I've never heard anyone doing that before, but that's something to consider, I guess. Okay. All right, here we go. Everybody got practice test P, or practice test number 1 out? Here we go. Remember, this is exactly what your test looks like. So you need to pay close attention, make sure you know how to start these problems. I think once you get them started, you're good to go, but sometimes getting them started is hard. So who has a thought on getting this one started? Common denominator, which for this problem would be what? 12. Now remember, common denominator includes a plain number. This is 3 over 1. So we're going to make them all 12s. So we're timesing this one by 3, this one by 4, and this one by 12. Now the good news is, what about all these 12s now? We can ignore them. So we have 3x plus 9 minus 8x equals negative 36. That look okay? Let's combine like terms here. So negative 5x plus 9 equals negative 36. Negative 5x equals negative 45. Did you get 9? Some of you were working ahead. Did you get 9 when you did it?
Yes.
That's super. All right, here we go. I'm going to do this on a number line, but I can't go to the number line until I divide everything by 2. So I'm going to have x minus 3 halves greater than 2. So right here in the middle of my number line, I'm going to put what number? 3 halves. The opposite of this. And then out here will be a dot, and out here will be a dot. And I will get that dot by counting backwards and forwards 2, which is 4 halves. So you can think of this as 1 1/2, or you can think of this as 3 halves. I don't care. If I add 4 halves, I'd be at 7 halves. If you're doing decimals, it would be 3 1/2. If I subtract 4 halves, I'd be at negative 1/2. If you're doing decimals, it's negative 0.5. Those dots will be open. And where will I shade? Outside. So negative infinity to negative 1/2, or 0.5 if you're doing decimals. It makes no difference. Decimals are fractions. And then 3.5 to infinity. Okay, so we had to get rid of the 2. Then we go to the number line, we put the opposite of that number in the middle of the number line, and then we count both ways that much. Okay? How about this next one? What are we going to do with it? Quadratic formula, I heard somebody say?
Yes.
Absolutely. The quadratic formula will always work. All right, let's see if we remember it after a long weekend. X equals what?
Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2x.
Okay, I'm not giving you that on the test. You guys need to know that. Most of you already do. So what does x equal in our case? X equals -7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared. I'm just gonna write 49, but it's 7 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Now I'm gonna be really careful when I type this in on my calculator. I'm gonna be really careful with all these negatives floating around. I got 73 under there, did you?
Yeah, it's just
Now, does 73 break down? No. Can I cancel anything? No. But remember, even if this would have been -12 plus or minus root 73 over 6, could I cancel anything? No, because you have to be able to cancel everywhere, and you can't. Here, with our problem, you can't anyway. Now, for test day, everybody's listening up. This is the answer. I don't want a decimal for this one. It was okay to do decimals here because they terminated. You didn't need to round off. You see what I'm saying? 1/2 is 0.5, that's fine. If you type this in and get decimals, you are going to have to round off, and that's bad. Okay? So we're gonna leave our answers as radicals. This is called the exact answer. Okay? All right, number 2, simplify. All right, what do we do here? Distribute the negative. I heard somebody say it back there. Good job. We're going to distribute the negative. And then once we get the distribute the negative thing taken care of, we will combine like terms. So we'll end up with 1 plus 3i. Okay, we're not missing that. Come on now. That's an easy one. What about b? What do I do with this guy? Foil. And we all know how to foil. First, outside, inside, last. And then we don't get ahead of ourselves, we first foil. And then we remember that I squared is -1, so this actually becomes +2, which can be added to the 18 to get 20, minus 9i. Okie dokie smokies. All right, here we go. Which property? Do you recognize any of them? Nobody recognizes any of them?
So
Derek?
is the first one additive inverse?
It is. Additive inverse. That's exactly right. When you add them and they cancel out, that's an inverse. Perfect. Additive inverse. Beautiful. All right, who else? C's one, you know. Everybody knows C. What's C? Distributive, yeah. Anytime you factor, you're using distributive. Everybody knows that one. What about B?
Multiplication constant.
Multiplication what?
Common. Or it says common like it says multiplication CLN.
Yeah, so it's not commutative. I hope I don't have that down at the answer anyway. It's not multiplicative, it's not commutative, it is associative. Because what changed?
Just the order, not the order, but
Not the order, but the
parentheses.
grouping.
Yep.
And when I mean, guys, try to remember, when you associate with someone, you group yourself with them, right? Associative is grouping. Grouping, associative. And that's what's going on here. What's a test look like, you guys? Exactly like this. So how many property questions will be on your test?
3.
3. Remember, at the end of your notes, I had an extra property practice sheet, and I had a sheet called Properties to Know, to help you maybe put them on flashcards and remember. That's at the end of your notes. Blow them off, and you know you're gonna miss 3 questions on the test, because there are 3 of those. And there'll be 1 on your final exam. All right, number 4, solve this guy. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is kind of out of left field here. Anybody remember how to solve something like that? What? Group it. And how do we group it, Luke?
First 2 numbers.
And what can we factor out of the first 2?
X squared.
X squared. And what will we be left with if we take out an x squared just from these 2?
X plus 4.
X plus 4? Is that okay? Now guess what? We're gonna have to group the second, or the last 2 terms. What can we take out of those? -4. And what will we be left with?
X minus, plus 6.
X.
Plus 4.
Plus 4, yep. Now, be very careful. You want to take this negative out. But when you take it out, this becomes a plus, because you took out the negative. And then what's the really great news? These 2 match. And when they match, then we know we are on target. So there's the match, and here's the leftover. So I wrote down my match, and then I wrote down my leftover. And then what about the leftover? What do you notice about that?
Squared.
The difference of squares? How does that factor?
X plus 2.
X plus 2, x minus 2. It's called the difference of squares. Now, no number line or anything funky like that, guys. You wanna know what x equals? Tell me, what does x equal? -4, -2, or 2. No parentheses and brackets, none of that. That only happens when you have these, okay? That's when we draw a number line and have intervals and stuff. When it's an equals, your answer is x equals. That's kind of a big one. Anybody have a question about that? All right, how about this one? What do we do to solve that? Square both sides. So when you square a square root, you just get what's in it. And then don't forget that's 36. So I'm gonna add 8 and divide. And it'll be my answer is that nice little fraction. Everybody good? Follow along. Okay, what about C? Factor, very good, Cam. How does this one factor? Oh, please check your factoring, folks. Take a stab at it. What do you think, X?
Yeah,
4 and 3.
Minus 4 plus 3.
Minus 4 plus 3, that's our guess, but we're not moving on until we check it. Is that's good in some ways, I get my negative 12, but does that work out? Okay, so we're not using 3 and 4, it's a great guess, makes sense, doesn't work. So what's another option? 2 and 6? So minus 6 plus 2. Does that give me what I was hoping to get in the middle?
Yes.
This is just my check to make sure I got my factors right. Okay, these are the right factors. So I go to the number line. Mrs. Ford, how do you know it's a number line? Remember, these problems are always number lines. These are always number lines. 2 dots on the number line. Where are they? Negative 2, positive 6. Always the opposite, right? And they'll be colored in.
Yep.
It's a greater than problem. If there's only 2 dots, greater thans are going to be shaded out. So negative infinity, negative 2. Remember, negative infinity is out here. Go ahead and write it down if you need to. There's your interval. And then here's your other one. Why am I using brackets this time? Because the dots are closed. You guys, we're half done with the test already. Can we pass this puppy? Yes, you can. All right, number 5. There he is. Who signed that? Oh, the nurse. Okay, great. All right, on our practice test, which you have, Nazim. Okay. There's nothing in it yet, but I gave you this last time. All right, so number 5. This is from way back, one of the first things we did. Who remembers what this means? Distance. So we're gonna have a big radical. And we're gonna do 6 minus 1 squared, those are the x's. Guys, remember, when you're doing anything, whether it's slope, distance, or midpoint, it's always the x's that go together and the y's that go together. Never mix and match the ordered pair. So 6 minus 1 squared plus 3 minus negative 2 squared. So 6 minus 1 is 5, squared is 25. 3 minus negative 2 is 5, squared is 25. So now I have the square root of 50. And that's gonna give me most of the credit, but if I want full credit, what am I gonna have to do?
Break it down.
Break it down. So 50 is 5 times 10, which is 2 times 5. So I have 2 5s, comes out. All left over 2 stays in. And there is my final answer. Okay? Now, how do I do midpoint? There we go.
Y minus Y.
No. Midpoint is average. Is there any subtracting in average? No, average is adding. So I'm gonna add my x's. 1 plus 6. And divide it by 2, so that's, how about 7 halves? Or 3 1/2 if you prefer. And then my y's. -2 plus 3, that one's 1/2. How do we find midpoint? Average. Average. Midpoint is average. Add them and divide by 2. Middle, average. All right, now we got a couple of points, and we're going to write the equation of the line. Okay? Now, how do I do that? Daniel, what's the first thing I need to do? I want to write the equation of a line. Okay, I need you to really lock in here, okay? Can someone help him? What do we have to do to write the equation of a line? Mary? Gotta find the slope. Gotta find the slope. So, how do we find the slope? Y minus Y, yes, Abby, Y minus Y over X minus X. And remember, this one, it is important that if you do second Y minus first Y, then you gotta do second X minus first X. Okay? They have to go the same order. Doesn't matter what the order is, but they have to be the same. All right, so it looks like I got 12 over 4. Did you get 3?
Yeah.
This is not the answer to the question. This is step 1. Now, how do we get the equation of the line?
Y minus Y.
Pick a point.
Yep.
Want to use that one? Doesn't matter. Just pick one. Y minus 15 equals 3 X minus 2. Is that right? Now, did the directions say? It doesn't say how to write it. So if it doesn't say, could I stop right here? What form is that? Point, slope? If it said slope intercept, then we would distribute and add our 15. So 3x plus 9 would be the slope intercept form. Charles, you got it? You okay with that? You guys? All right. B, 6B. Now we're going to write the equation of the line again. So we're going to do the same thing. But this time, we have to be perpendicular to this and contain this. Now, what was step 1 on this problem? Find the slope. That's step 1 on every line problem, okay? This time the slope is going to be different though. We don't have 2 points, so we're not going to do this math. What are we going to do to find the slope this time? Lincoln, you okay back there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do I do? Find the slope of this line? And how do I do that? How do I find the slope of a line? Get y by itself. So 2x minus y equals 6, so I'll subtract 2x. So negative y equals 6 minus 2x. Divide by negative 1. So y equals negative 6 plus 2x. Does that arithmetic make sense to everyone? Now, this is not the answer. This is the original line. What is the slope of that line? 2, right there. There's your slope. If this said parallel, then I would use 2. But it says perpendicular, so I gotta use opposite reciprocal, which is negative 1/2. So here's my point. My slope is going to be negative 1/2. Y minus 1 equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. Is that okay? What form is this? And if it doesn't say, it has no directions, or if it says point slope, you're done. Slope intercept, we would have to distribute. What's negative 1/2 times 2? Negative 1. Oh, wow. I think that just works out to be this, because the 1's cancel. Seven is going to be the easiest problem on the test if you've studied. Has anybody done any review work yet? Does anybody know what that equation looks like for a circle? Well, if I were doing area of a circle, pi r squared would be my formula, but I'm just writing the equation of the circle. All right, this is how easy it is. X minus 6 squared, y plus 2 squared equals 16. Why is it x minus 6, y plus 2? Because like everything else, if it's in parentheses, I use the opposite. And why is that a 16? Because it's 4 squared. There is no work to show on that problem. You just write down the equation. Because if you know the center and the radius, that's easy. Don't miss that. It's a dead giveaway you didn't study. All right, simplify. Now we have some exponents to mess around with. What do you think we should do first? Probably square this out. PEMDAS, parentheses. So we'll square that out and get 9x squared y. And then while we're at it, what about this? That's gonna go to the top. Now, when it goes to the top, remember there's already 1 up there, right? So now I'm bringing up 2 more. So now I'll have 3 on the top. Remember, there was already 1 up there. 2 more are coming up. That makes 3. What's going on here? There's 2 gonna be left over in the bottom. Because 2 X's and 4 X's will cancel and leave an extra 2 down here. And how about 9 and 6? 3 over 2. Regular simplifying. Wow, that was easy. Make sure you're practicing that on your own. Okay? And then last problem, projectile motion. All right, so here's the general formula. A says write the equation for this problem. So this is our general formula, but given what we've been given, what is our equation for this problem? You can either use S of t, I like to use H to remind me that that's height, but you don't have to. Negative 16t squared plus what? 20t plus what? 30. Guys, please don't get those 2 numbers mixed up. V stands for velocity. So when they say the velocity is 20, that's going to go here. This is the initial height, where the ball starts. So that's A, that's all there is to it. There's your equation. When does the ball hit the ground? You have to plug in a number for either H or T. The ball is on the ground. 0 for, Bryce, what? 0 for height, absolutely. If the ball is on the ground, then its height is 0. Now at this point, you are free to solve it however you want. You could graph it on your calculator. And what would you be looking for if you graph it on your calculator? You'd be looking for that point right there, right? Remember, it started 30 feet high, so it went up and boom. If you want to solve that by hand, which for some of you is going to be the safest, you can simplify this equation if you wish. You don't need to. When I say simplify, let's see, what could I divide by? I think 2 is all I can divide by. Negative 2. If you want to. This is completely optional. Once you get it set equal to 0, you can divide it by whatever you want. And then I'll use the quadratic formula. Now, some of you are graphing, and that's fine. We better come out with the same answer. Those of you that aren't quite confident with your graphing at this point, you'll want to do it this way. I'm using the quadratic formula. And as always, I'm going to get 2 answers. seconds. And negative 0.880 seconds. Again, if you graphed this on your calculator, you should have gotten 1.518. And then back here is this negative 0.880, but do I even need that? I don't want negative time. You wouldn't even see that on your calculator, so you wouldn't even have to mess with that if you graphed it. We don't like negative time. This said, when will the ball be on the ground? That means 2 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, not negative seconds. So we threw that out. Did anybody else, I'm just checking my math, did anybody else get 1.518 when you did that? You didn't get that number? Could be I made a mistake, let me double check.
Yeah, 2.13. And when I do the calc function on my graphic, I
That's
do
the
get
thing.
a negative 0.88 on the other side.
Yeah, I got that one, yeah. So this one might be wrong.
I got 2.13.
Alright, let me double check. So did I this time. I have no idea what I did the first time. So that's a bad answer there. This is right. Oh, I know what I did. I know what I did. No, mistake. There's your answer. Thank you. And that's that one.
When we do graph it, do we have to show any bulk other than getting it to the 0 equals negative 16?
You need to show, if you're gonna solve it by graphing, you need to show your graph. So you would have this drawn to tell me that this is what I saw when I graphed it, just so I can see, this is like your work, right?
Yeah.
All right? Sorry about that mistake there. Thank you for catching that. Good on that one. One more question. How high is the ball after 1.5 seconds? Now remember, this is your equation. Always go back to part A. How high is the ball after 1.5 seconds? What are you gonna do?
Plug in 1.5.
4?
T.
Exactly. So C is gonna be H equals negative 16 times 1.5 squared plus 20 times 1.5 plus 30. Always, always, always go back to your original equation. All right, let's see if I can type this in right. How did I do on that one? Is that what you got?
Yes.
Okay? We good? Well, guess what, my friends? That's practice test 1. So let's move on. Start practice test 2. We will not get this done. Let's get done what we can. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This one starts off with the properties. All right, which property is shown? What do you think for A? I heard someone say it, I think. Did someone say additive inverse? If you did, you're right. When you add two things and get 0, that's additive inverse. Very good. How about B? Now look at what happened there. What changed? From the left side to the right side, what changed?
Additive
No
associate.
order changed, the grouping changed, right? We have 2, 3, 5, or 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 on both sides. But the grouping changed, so that's associative of addition this time. And what about C?
Inverse multiplication.
Very good. Very good. Multiplicative inverse. Very good. Inverse multiplication. Yep, perfect. Beautiful. When you multiply them and they cancel out, that is great. That is great. Okay, so here we go. Same problems, same kind of problems as on the other practice test. Directions say solve. What do you want to do here to solve this? What does that kind of tell you? Well, it's squared, which means it's a quadratic equation, which means I can always use the quadratic formula. So x equals, here we go, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What do you think? Are you okay with that? Alright, what's under the radical? 49?
48.
48? I think 49 altogether. I think Willow, this comes out to be negative 48. So when we combine that one, we get 49, which is going to be 7. So this is one where we need to simplify it. So 1 plus 7 is 8, or 2/3, 8/12, or 2/3. And 1 minus 7 is negative 6/12, or negative 1/2. That is perfectly okay, wonderful, 100%. Did anybody notice anything else about this problem, though? Did anyone try to factor it? I'm with you. I don't like messing around when there's all these combinations, but that actually does factor. And notice if I factor it, what would my answers be? Negative 1/2 and positive 2/3. So the answer will be the same. It doesn't matter how you choose to do it. On the first practice test, the problem like this didn't factor. So we just had to use the formula. You can always use the formula. It will work all the time. Okay, we good? All right. Number 2, or B. Tell me what you're gonna do on test day when you see this problem. First of all, you better draw a number line, because every time you have one of those, you're gonna have a number line. Okay, now what? We're gonna go from here.
-2.
Right in the middle of the number line, you're gonna put a -2. And there's gonna be a dot out here and a dot out here. How are we gonna figure out where those dots are?
7 over 8.
Go backwards and forwards that many. So -2 plus 7 would put me at 5. And -2 minus 7 would put me at -9. So I start at -2 and go 7 both ways. Those dots are open and shaded where? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Greater than is out, right? So -infinity, -9, 5 to infinity. This is just different. Okay? Half the battle is just knowing what to do to get started. What do you think we should do to get started? Common denominator, which again will be 12. Remember, you need it over here too. Don't forget that number. So 3 here, 2 here, and 12 here. So, tell me what my equation is going to be. 6x minus 3 plus 2x minus 4 equals 24. And then let's collect my terms. So 8x minus 7 plus 24, all right? Add 7 and divide by 8. And that's it. Come on, you're doing great, guys. You're doing great. Try not to be too bored, because remember, you gotta be able to do all this. Now, do you see that inequality there? That's my clue that at some point I'm going to need a number line. This means number line. Okay? Obviously, I need some dots on my number line. So how am I going to get the dots this time? What am I going to do? What? Difference in squares, is that what you said? Well, I'm going to factor it. Yeah, it's not the difference in squares, but you're right, I'm going to factor it. And I need to make sure I get my factors correct. Stress? She says -4, -1. Let's try it. I'm going to check it. X squared minus x minus 4x plus 4. Hey, I think she's got it. Do you? So what does that tell me about the dots on my number line? They will be at 4 and 1. and the dots will be
Equals.
filled in. And because it's a less than, I will be shaded inside. So my answer is bracket 1/4. Are we good? All right, one more. This is an easy one. Nobody misses this one. What do we do first here? Square both sides. And when we square both sides, we're left with just x minus 2 equals 25. So x equals, done. And the next one's a big one. We don't really have time for us to stop there. And next time we're together, which is tomorrow, is that right? We will pick up here. So let's see.
Do you have any ultimate idea here?